my comments that I made earlier, I watched another video which was actually posted on Twitter and on H2 Satmar, and they were like, as a response to Tyler Oliveira's video. And the fellow was just saying, people have did us all the time. I don't think Tyler Oliveira is an anti-Semite, and I don't think he is even anti-Hasidic. He's genuinely curious about this issue, but he's doing it in a way that is sensationalist to get more views. That's really what I believe. It's a certain level of grifting to a certain extent. But nonetheless, we do have answers. Of course, again, people work, and the people, these are certain things I didn't say in the previous video, and the people who are learning Torah, they get a paycheck if they're married, right? So that's a job. Learning in Kollel is also a job. It doesn't pay a lot, but it's a job just like any other job. And then paychecks, you have, you make a W-2 and you're considered an employee. I was in Kollel. I had, my income tax taken out just like any other job. So just like this guy, he's a YouTuber. That's his job. So these people, and they're paid for by the wealthy people in the community who value Torah study. Just like, there are people who value celebrities or sports players or whatever, and pay them to do things that are not really productive. This, we believe, is actually productive because it's the holiest and greatest thing in the world is to study Torah. And the belief is that every Jew has to study Torah, but if you're supporting, say, a wealthy businessman, he supports people who study full-time, they have a share in that reward in heaven for the study. But from a secular standpoint, it's a job like any other job. Learning in Kollel is a job. And like we said, the taxes come out like everything else, like any other job. Another point is that he asked the security public safety office there, who's paying for this? Is the taxpayer paying for this? Well, which taxpayer is paying for the village of Kiryas public safety? So the way New York State works is that if you live in an incorporated village, you pay village taxes in addition to town taxes, county taxes, and state taxes. So there's an extra level of taxation if you live in an incorporated village, like the incorporated village of Kiryas Joel, as opposed to not living in an incorporated village. And the only people who pay taxes there are the people who live there. The same thing, the people who vote there are the people who live there, meaning only if you're a resident of a village can you vote in a village election, and if you're a resident of a village, you pay village taxes. And so when he's saying who's paying for the Kiryas Joel public safety, it is the taxpayers of the village of Kiryas Joel, which are mostly Hasidic Jews. So that's certainly part of it. Now, beyond that, and again, I'm not sure if these are the answers we should be giving or not, even though I agree with this. So one answer, as far as people being on welfare, and this term welfare is a loaded term because some people say, well, they would consider food stamps and Medicaid as welfare. Others say the term welfare only means cash benefits. It seems like he's not only considering food stamps frozen here. The child tax rebates and things. And those, again, you want to call that welfare, you don't want to call that welfare. Generally, they did not call those welfare. So it's interesting, to say the least. But if you want to call all these programs welfare, What about public schooling? Now, Kiryas Joel is interesting because they have their own public school district. However, the vast majority of the children there, now they could have just said, well, we're sending all our kids to public school. They don't do that. What they do is that the public school there is only for special ed and for a very specific purpose and for a very specific reason. And all the other kids there are going to private schools. Now, private schools in New York State are allowed to receive a certain amount of funding from the local public school for buses and for school books and the same thing as far as now. The interesting thing is in Kiryas Joel is you have certain schools there that refuse to take even from their own local school district. So there are a lot of schools there that are totally privately funded in Kiryas Joel. So that's another part of the story there. But the bigger schools there only receive a small amount of things: school lunches and buses and secular books and all the religious things. Hold on. Let me. All right. So. And again, where is the funds there coming from? It's coming from the taxpayers in this Kiryas Joel school district, which are all their own people, and yet they're not saying, well, since we're the taxpayers, we're going to send all our kids to public school. There's only like 200 kids in the public school who are special ed, and all the other kids, they have to pay tuition or get scholarships, which are all privately funded from the Hasidic community. Now, beyond that, there's the other issues, is that, like we said, public schooling in America is a big, is that considered to be is that considered to be what do they call it? Is that considered to be welfare? No. Hold on, I gotta respond to this again. So again, one kid in a public school costs more than like a family of 6 on food stamps and Medicaid. And again, we're all paying into the same system. So if you don't feel guilty, morally about sending your kids to public school, with all the problems that exist in public school, and there are plenty of parents who send their kids to public school who also take food stamps and Medicaid and whatever else, at least it's a wash, and again, these are people who are paying their taxes, and the taxpayer money is equally whoever's paying in and out. It's not that, and again, I'm not saying, each man according to his needs or anything like that. I'm just saying a very general idea is that it's, I should have, is that this way, here we see it, that the people are, paying taxes and getting back. Everybody does. So some people get back with the public schools. Some people might get back with Medicaid or Section 8 or whatever else. So, it's all the same pretty much. But the big thing is, I don't like this thing of like saying, well, they just hate us anyway. I don't subscribe to that ideology. And I think after a while it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, as I said in the previous video. And another point that I want to bring up is that in Kiryas recently there was a symposium to discuss the importance of following the law, whether it's with taxes, with benefits, with things like this, following the law. I think it's called Din, and they had both Jewish and non-Jewish lecturers presenting. I think also had the county executive of Orange County. So it was a big symposium with, I think maybe 1,000 people were there, men and women, I believe. I think with separate seating, I'm not sure. But it was there present for the community, and so this is a community that cares a lot about following the law. It's a religious requirement to follow the civil law, which everybody should do anyway. So the whole thing that there's fraud, this and that, I even regret the last video I said, there's fraud everywhere, and there's a little bit, which is what Frieda Wiesel said. In this community, there certainly is not what you have in Minnesota, where it's a systematic fraud, and it seems that it's supported by the government. This is not in any way fraud. This is, if you make a certain amount of money and you have a big family, and these are people who would have big families with or without these benefits. So then the question is, all right, what do you say to people who can only afford one kid? I don't think they can only afford one kid. There are a lot of people, they're selfish and they don't want to have more kids. And they're saying they can only afford one kid. And also they think that affording one kid also means you have to have a dog and a cat. Those cost a lot of money. You have to bring the kids to Disney World and this and that. And whereas this is a community where people, if they take a vacation, it's like to the Catskills. It's not that expensive. They'll take the kids to play in an arcade or something. And they're not, or they'll go, if they go to an amusement park, they'll go to like Hershey Park or something when it might not be as expensive or whatever. Not gonna go, and many people in this community, they don't go to these things at all, what kind of vacation? Just go to see Niagara Falls or something simple, not the big expensive vacations, So if that's what you call, they can only have one kid, it's because you're spending a lot more money, on the sports and on this and that. Whereas this is a community where they have different priorities, and I'm not putting any of that stuff down. I'm just saying that this is the way it is. If someone I don't think anybody there really playing sports, or they have certain games they might play, whatever, in the G class or whatever, I don't know. I did teach there briefly, but I don't even know what kind of activities they have. I know like in the summer camps they have more. Swimming is a big thing because the Talmud says a father is obligated to teach his child how to swim. So beyond that, it's they're not going out to the movies. They don't have cable TV. Most people, if they have internet, it's just for business. Like he said, he saw the people, they have the flip phones. It's funny that he said, they don't have liquor stores here. Right behind there is a liquor store, because there's no shame in drinking alcohol in Judaism. It's not considered a vice. It's considered a sacred, devotion to imbibe responsibly and in a sacred manner, using alcohol in a sacramental way, and it's not just something like in other religions that the priest can do. It's something that we all can partake of within our religion, but we use it in a sacramental way, but both wine and spirits. But there are not the illegal drugs. There's no violence. One thing that Frieda Wiesel pointed out Kids just leave their bikes out. They don't chain them up. He's worried that someone's going to steal their bike or this or that. So it's and like he said, people can learn from it. One more point I guess I want to bring up is his question about the white community that was trying to be started in the Ozarks and people trying to stop that. And in Kiryas Joel really cares about that. My first question to Tyler Valera is, well, what do you think about that? You know, if you're putting a microphone in everybody's face and asking how many kids do you have and what do you work for a living? Which when he went to the face healers, he wasn't doing that. When he went to the Scientologists, he wasn't doing that. When he went to the very poor communities in Baltimore and Flint, Michigan, he wasn't doing that. He wasn't asking people how many kids do you have, and you know, and what do you do for a living? He wasn't asking that. So, but with that question and with all of that being discussed, the other issue is that how do I don't even remember because what I was talking about. Uh, this question about this white only community. So again, I would ask him, what is his view on something like this? What does he have to say about it? And I would also answer, this is not, now there's a difference between religion and race. There's quite a large minority of Hispanic Jews, mostly from Argentina and some originally from Venezuela, in Kiryas Joel. You know, there are synagogues where they follow the customs of Argentina, and they have the name of the synagogue as Argentina or Buenos Aires, which is the capital of Argentina. So there's at least 2 or 3 synagogues where maybe culturally they're more Hasidic, but liturgically they're Sephardic, which is very similar but somewhat different. So you do have that, and many of them speak Spanish, as well as Yiddish and you know, pray in Hebrew and speak English as well. So that's one part of it, is that there's no racial aspect of this community. The aspect of this community is religious. So if someone would say, I want to create a Christian only community where race doesn't come into the question, I don't see how it would be any different. But on the other hand, nobody in Kiryas Joel cares. I mean, you have, at least not in Kiryas Joel, but in a similar community, someone who identifies with the New Square community, doesn't live there, but who really, it's Rabbi Schiller, who, like me, didn't grow up in the Hasidic community and joined these communities later. But he maybe, first of all, he's a lot older into these things, and probably more devout than me in many ways. But Rabbi Schiller, he should be, well, you know, he's all for that type of stuff. He not only he doesn't have a problem with it, he supports, you know, he would probably support a community like that, and be the first to support it. He would, you know, be very happy to, you know, be the first to, you know, make Hanachas Even Apina, how do you say, like, to put down the cornerstone of such a community. Most people in these communities, they don't care about that question. Nobody, they're like, you want to do it? I don't care. Like, do you want to live in Kiryas Joel? Like, when people are asking, could I live here? Could I move here? I know people who were not from that community, even who were problematic, who moved into Kiryas Joel until they started to act in an inappropriate way. There was one fellow from like a Sikh background, I think, who started to pretend to be a Hasidic Jew. Might have undergone or I'm not sure if he's from. He was mentally ill, and he was like, he might have been African American, but then he started acting in an inappropriate way, and he wasn't welcome there anymore because, and he had some mental illness, but he was doing things that were problematic, maybe even illegal, and so he might have even been arrested. I'm not sure, but and then he said he wanted to convert, or he said his mother was Jewish. And he was lying about all these things, and he like put on fake payas, and he was really making a mockery of everything there. Um, and nonetheless, he did it, and he was living there. Um, so it's not like nobody can live there. And again, it's not just because he was pretending. If you really want to live there, I do believe there are a few non-Jewish there. Either they lived there from before the village started. Um, so it's not 100% a Hasidic community, but the community, like Frieda Wiesel explained, like from a secular standpoint, is that there's a lot of competition because there are people who want to live there. And so it's not like that it's a discrimination issue, um, but rather a competition issue, which is an interesting approach that Frieda Wiesel brought up. And I think it's a good point that she brought up. So um, that's probably all I have to say today. Um, it's what's a $5 bill? I'll just so, um, but so the only thing, like, I'm not saying it's right or wrong to want to make a white Christian only community. I think really laws against it really are problematic. Like, let people do what they want, especially you're starting it, because like this, even though he didn't address it in the video, but he was like, this is a town that was invaded by Jews who are addicted to welfare, but he didn't say that in the video. It was just like a catchy title, to clickbait title, right? So the town wasn't invaded, the town was made. They took, just like kind of like what this community in the Ozarks wants to do, they took farmland back in the 70s and developed it. And then the town said, well, we have zoning laws, but if you have 500 people legally, you can start a village. They really didn't want to start a village. They really didn't want to start their own government because it goes against their theology to a certain extent. That's why there's a lot of opposition within the community to that. But nonetheless, they did so to neighbors, because another part of the theology is that we have to be good neighbors. We're in exile and we have to live as good neighbors. So they made the village, and then when you have a village that's incorporated, you can make your own zoning laws. And then the next thing came was the school district, which was, what was the issue? Was that if the parents who had special needs children, they had to go to the Monroe Woodbury School District, because it was almost mandated by law that to receive special ed programs, it couldn't be done in a private school. It had to be done in a public school at that time. Things have changed somewhat, but at the time, so then this was the idea, not that so much the Hasidic community wanted, this was that what the people from the Monroe Woodbury School District wanted, also to separate. They were like, we don't want people who are not in our school voting in our school elections, which I think would be a solution as well. Make a new school district. And again, the school could be open to everyone, but if you're living within this district, maybe it's just like one school that taxpayer money is paying for, and then let the rest of the community pay for their own school districting. Um, and then they won't vote in your school election. So it was really a matter of being good neighbors, kind of like good fences make good neighbors. And now the newest thing, which was a number of years ago already, I think it's more than 5 years ago, might have been 2019, 7 years ago now, was making seceding from the town of Monroe and making their own town, the town of Palm Tree. Again, this was about good fences make good neighbors. That was the point of that. So these are a few of the comments that I have on this subject. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. We'll see you later.